Welcome to Deep Space Pride, a gay Star Trek podcast. This week, we are going to be talking about the latest 2 episodes of Prodigy, Asylum, and Let Sleeping Borg Lie. Thanks for joining us. Mike.
Hi, Johnson.
Happy Thursday. How are you doing today? You are struggling, huh?
I am struggling. Yeah, I'm not feeling the greatest right now. So,
but the command of your resources and your dedication to this podcast is bringing you here tonight. That's right. That's right.
Yes, and also the fact that you're traveling this weekend, so we can't record it a later time.
Well, it's not my fault that someone was also on vacation. Otherwise, we have more time.
Yeah,
but that's fine. We're both traveling for different reasons.
Yes,
and this was the only common time that we could find to record our bi-weekly podcast.
In your busy social calendar, might I add, as well.
Yes. No, my calendar is very, very swamped. Next weekend, not this coming weekend, this coming weekend, I'm going to be in LA. Next weekend, I'm hosting 2 Friendsgivings, one on Saturday and one on Sunday, which I'm already dreading, but that'll be fine. And I feel like before we know it, November's going to be over. It's going to be so fast.
I mean, it's already November 10th. So, I mean, it's a third over. So, yes. And
it's crazy. It's crazy.
In 10 days, it'll be 2/3 over. Yes.
Yeah, it's really crazy.
So,
but yes. Yes, no, I admit that my social calendar is occasionally occupied. But
occasionally,
we make it work.
Occasionally, that is a false statement. Occasionally,
false statement.
You are booked out for weeks on end with social things to do.
Well, you gotta plan it. Otherwise, it's not gonna happen, right?
Sure. Yes.
Yeah.
There's very little room for spontaneity, though, or last minute podcasting.
That is not true. I have room for spontaneity.
There's the high pitched voice right there. There it is. Yeah. The defensive high pitched voice.
I have room. I definitely have room. Any case.
Do you?
Yes.
Well, anyway.
So, yes. Anyway.
Are you excited about LA? About seeing people in LA, your friends?
Yes. No. I am looking forward to it. I haven't been to LA since February, so it's been a while.
Yeah.
So I do have a client out in LA that I'm making a point of visiting. And I was like, why don't I go a couple of days earlier and see my so-called friends? So
your so-called friends? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
What is this? Your so-called life? So you have so-called friends?
So we're going to see each other. We're going to hang out. It'll be great.
Yes.
Hopefully, because usually when I go to California for work, it's a whirlwind. I land and I have meetings like right away.
Sure.
So I think this will help me to get more into the groove before I start just working.
That's good.
Oh, yeah.
That's
like literally the last time I landed and I went straight to the office and I went to the bathroom to just wipe myself down a little bit because I had been on a 6-hour plane ride and I had meetings immediately. It was like that. Yeah. It's just a little crazy. But
that is a little crazy. Someone who's booking your flights should take better account of those things. Oh, wait, I'm
booking my flights.
Yes.
I book my own flights. Yeah. Well, it's also because I don't know. The time change is a thing, obviously, and then you want to make the most of your time there. But I also don't want to stay there for too long sometimes because if I'm there for work, I'm just in work mode. So I'm just like, I want to go in, I want to leave. But this time, obviously, I'm giving myself a little more space to see people. So that's different. So, yeah.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Exactly. So, Mike, I thought that in the spirit of Prodigy, which is back after when was the last time we had Prodigy on? I don't even has it been a year?
Oh gosh.
It
No,
was last
it
year.
wasn't. No, wasn't it earlier
Oh,
this
part
year?
one. Oh, the second five episodes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're right. It was before
It's like
Picard, right?
January. Yeah, it was like January.
Oh man. Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
But it
yes.
premiered last year. There was a multi-month break, and then the second five episodes were in January, and then Picard came, right?
Correct. Yes.
And then it's all blur. And then we were like, when's season 1B going to start? And here we are.
Yes. Here we are. The second half of season 1 has begun, and yeah,
Yeah.
it's good to have it back.
It's good to have it back.
Yeah.
But yes, so I thought that what inspired this next thing that we'll be talking about is that Paramount Plus is working with Kate Mulgrew to do these little vignettes that they're releasing on social media. I don't know like where else they're publishing this content, but it's definitely on social. And it's basically these 1 minute vignettes of her talking about a theme, a takeaway, a moral lesson from each episode of Prodigy. And, it's for kids, but I'm like, I love Kate Mulgrew. So I'm like, I love these little vignettes that she goes on. Like, the first episode of the season was about taking a leap of faith. Episode 2 was about self-sacrifice. So she goes into it and she is like, yeah, self-sacrifice is one of the noblest things that someone can do for someone else. I'm like, oh my God, Kate Mulgrew. So I thought that in the spirit of Kate Mulgrew, who we both like, that we take one of these life lessons and reflect on it and share a little bit about ourselves in the process. So I was the one that proposed it, so I can go first. So I thought that we can go off just one of the themes of the 2 episodes we're going to talk about because we don't have 2 hours to talk. But I thought that we could go off of the lesson of the first episode of Asylum, which is taking a leap of faith. Because in this episode, as we'll get into, Dal needs to take a leap of faith. Obviously, Rock Top needs to take a leap of faith. Everyone takes a leap of faith, literally and figuratively. So I thought that we could ask ourselves and each other, when was the last time, or when was a moment in your life that you really had to take a leap of faith? I'll go first. I think for me, just to relate to the theme of this podcast, coming out, I think, to certain people in my life, it required a certain leap of faith. I think in college, particularly as I was coming out to myself and as I was coming out to certain people, certain friends, because I grew up I've shared this before with our listeners, but growing up a pretty conservative Christian background in church, pretty conservative growing up there. But in college, I also had quite a few friends that was part of this Christian community that I was part of. And we were all relatively conservative, I would say. Like we were all like pretty conservative on the social issues and such. Even though we went to a liberal school, it was a liberal arts school. When it came to the more cultural and religious issues that we were talking about on the regular, we were relatively conservative in our approach, which actually thinking back is a little surprising, but that was honestly the makeup of some of the folks I was hanging out with. And as I was coming out to myself, it was a painstaking and heartbreaking process. But I was like, I need to share this with people. And some of my closest friends were my college friends who were these pretty conservative young adults. And I really didn't know how they would take it. I didn't quite know how they would react. Would they judge me? Would they kind of say like, oh, you can be part of our group? I had no idea where it's going to go. And I think quite literally and figuratively, I had to really just take a leap of faith and be like, you know what? No matter what happens, it's going to be okay. I'm going to figure it out. It will all be fine. It's a journey and we'll see where we end up. And I think that it was a process. I think there was a range of reactions, but I think overall everyone was either supportive, straight out supportive, or they were like, Johnson, I'm not sure what I think about it, but I'm here for you if you need to talk to anyone. And it was really, at the end of the day, a really rewarding, it was still a process, but it was a rewarding one. And ultimately, it was having faith that those friendships were more than just the culture and the religion of our backgrounds and how we were brought up, and that it wasn't so tenuous. And yeah, I think that for me, that was definitely that whole coming out process to myself, to my friends, over time, really, I would say for me was in general like a leap of faith.
So, well, thank you for sharing that. I think that is a great story, and hopefully, hopefully that inspires someone.
Maybe or not.
But I think it's a good piece of your journey.
And it relates to our podcast. Yes.
It does.
You're welcome. Well, Mike, what about you? What's your story?
My story for this particular lesson is basically when I moved to New York City. That was a huge leap of faith. So I had
was it one of the stories where we had like $5 in your pocket and like 2 suitcases, like Felicity?
I mean, I did literally come to New York City with 2 suitcases. Yes, that is.
Oh my God,
that is true. Absolutely true. The story behind it is that I was in my role with Apple at the time in Providence, Rhode Island, and I was looking to change my experience and go further in the company. So my boss actually set up an interview for me down here in New York City. I worked for a day or 2 days actually. I worked at the Soho store for 2 days, and then they helped me get ready for my interview with the next level up who were interviewing for this. And so that all happened really quickly, and literally by the time, so this was over a weekend, I came here, hung out, and by the time I was back in Providence, I had a job offer like on Monday or Tuesday.
Wow.
And they were like, we want you to move down here in like a month or less, or like 3 weeks. And I was like, I'm going to need a little bit more time than that. So,
wow.
So I ended up negotiating it to move in 6 weeks instead of 3 or 4. And
sure.
I hadn't had a place to hadn't figured out where I was going to live yet or anything like that. So I reached out to a couple of people, and actually one of my exes actually said, you can come and stay with me while you get settled in. So, which was nice at the time. So I basically wrapped up my life in Providence.
You're like, bye, Felicia's.
Sort of, yeah. I was actually, it was also sort of closing up a relationship at the time as well. So it was kind of,
right.
It was multifaceted, but so I came on a Greyhound bus with my 2 suitcases and so I started here, and I would say it wasn't the easiest start. I mean, it took a lot of faith to believe that things would work out. Because when I came down here, I actually within like the first week or 2, my ex and I got into an argument, and then he was basically like, I want you out. And it was kind of crazy. And I was like, he wasn't that mean, but it was basically like, when are you moving out? And I was like, okay. So fortunately he took like a 2-week vacation. So I had like 2 weeks to myself, and then about 5 weeks into actually living here in New York City. So I found my first apartment, and I found it on Craigslist, went and saw it. Actually, I saw like 3 or 4 Craigslist apartments. So this is back when Craigslist was still a pretty big thing, and you could find people looking for roommates on Craigslist and whatnot. And so So that's how I found my first apartment and actually ended up living there for almost 5 years. So my
Yeah.
first apartment, which was literally like an 8 by or maybe 10 by 6 room.
Oh, do you roommates?
Yeah, I mean, I had 2 roommates, but I had the smallest room. So yeah, that's sort of my leap of faith story, as far as that goes about just moving here. And yeah, it took just a lot of faith to believe that things would work out, and
Yeah.
eventually they did. And despite some setbacks and challenges, it all did work out. So, and here I am, at close to 12 years later, 11 and a half years later, I am, over 11 and a half years later, I'm here. So that's my leap of faith, or multiple leaps of faith in that story, I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah. You're like
So
Felicity. Yeah, you moved to New York. Not for a guy though. That was a different case.
I did
But
not move here for a guy. No, actually, I
yeah,
did not. Nope.
yeah.
Yeah. So
Yes.
there we go.
Cool. Well, thanks for sharing, Mike.
Yeah.
Excited for our next show and tell lesson, whatever Kimo Group
Whatever,
comes up
keep
for us.
moving.
Yes, thank you, Kimo Group. Thank you. Cool. Well, why don't we get into this week's episodes? I don't think there's much in the way of Star Trek news that I've heard of. There's probably some minor stuff, but I don't know if anything comes to mind for you. I haven't
No,
really seen
nothing really
anything
comes to
interesting.
mind for um, major news. But
I think people are just waiting, like, when is the next series going to get announced? Because Picard is right around the corner, and then they're going to lose a series, but I haven't heard anything.
I don't know that they're going to overshadow the Picard season with anything in way of announcements or anything like that. Although I think based upon when Picard is going to start, the ending would fall on or near what is it? First Contact Day.
First Contact Day.
Yeah, so maybe there'll be some news at First Contact Day, but I don't
16th?
think
April 16th.
April 6th or 5th?
April 5th. April 5th. Oh my gosh. By the way, we're supposed to potentially go on another podcast as guests. Trek Sports Quiz.
Yes.
So yes, for our listeners, we were
well, we haven't recorded it yet, so we'll talk more about
we haven't recorded it yet
once it happens. But yes.
Well, someone had reached out and was like, "Do you want to be part of this podcast?" And it's basically like a quiz show.
Yes, and I'm actually looking forward to it. I've actually listened to all their episodes, and the questions are hard, and
they're hard. I haven't listened to the newest one, but they are hard questions. I'm like, I feel like you and I are just gonna like stare at each other.
I feel like you're gonna have all this knowledge hidden. And actually, so I was messaging with Davey about this, and he was actually listening to the episode where you were talking about going to trivia night.
Oh man.
And I previously to him hearing that, I had said, well, Johnson's like a fount of all this like ridiculous information about Star Trek.
I think compared to you, you're worse. It's like sometimes I feel it's like the blind leading the legally blind. Like it's like I'm like I have like a little bit more visibility, and I'm like, okay, I'm not like gonna just like stumble and kill myself. But I'm not sure what the benchmark is. Like, because some of these contestants they have on is like, oh my god, you remember it was like something very, very specific.
Well, so all right, so you need to listen to the latest episode, which is tailored to what these two people have been doing on their podcast, which is watching the first season of Star Trek, the original series. So all the questions were related to that.
Sure.
So,
I'm not sure.
Whatever we put down as our expertise is sort of
generalists. We're both like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like I know we have a heart for TNG and DS9, but if you were to ask me about a very specific episode of like TNG season 1. I'm like, I don't remember because I hate TNG season 1. I don't remember last time I watched TNG season 1. Like, like there's just like, we're kind of generalists in the sense that we know a little bit across all the series, but we're not specialists in any capacity. So I don't know.
Well, we'll see what we put down for our expertise and what Davey chooses for us to ask us about. So we'll either.
It's like, Alex, I would take random question for 500. Like, I don't know.
No, I do not want random questions about 800 plus episodes of Star Trek. No, I do not.
Anyway,
that would be disastrous beyond belief.
Okay, well, here we are. So anyway, yeah, why don't we get into our episode review then / discussion of again.
But before we do, there's a quick message about Trek Talks 2.
John Billingsley, Phil Phlox, Hollywood Food Coalition here. Guess what? Trek Talks 2. It's happening. You asked for it. You got it. January 14, 8 hours of premium Star Trek entertainment, amazing guests, mad cappery, insightful social commentary, musical interludes. Support HoFoCo. Check us out at hofoco.org, helping people in need for almost 40 years. 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, on the 14th of January at trektalks.net. Live long and mark your calendars. Again, trektalks.net.
So hopefully you'll join us for Trek Talks 2, January 14th. And we don't know the lineup yet, but we will, there'll be more announcements soon, I'm sure. So as they firm that up. But now we can talk about this week's episodes of Prodigy.
All right. Well, why don't we start with talking about Asylum, which is episode 11 of season 1 of Prodigy. Mike, what did you think of this episode?
So I really enjoyed this episode. It was great to see how nervous the crew was about going to Starfleet, but also how excited they were about this. So I was really on board for this whole adventure to begin with. I also love it when they wear their Starfleet uniforms.
Cadet uniforms, I guess.
Whatever they are.
I
think it's great. They look great in them. And so I love... you really get to feel their nervousness about doing this, but also their excitement. So I think that's one of the key points of this episode. And I love how it starts out. It's very reminiscent of which one? Star Trek Beyond or Into Darkness? I can't
Beyond.
remember.
Oh, no. Into Darkness.
Into Darkness. Right. Yeah. Into Darkness.
Into Darkness with the first inadvertent first contact, but it was kind of not meant to be.
Yes. So I felt like there were,
the music.
Yeah.
Even the music.
Even the music is
it's like the da 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 da. I was like, wait, that's like that's very that's very Star Trek.
They also
Michael
use that in
Giacchino.
the subsequent episodes as well.
Yeah. I'm like,
well, that's
very,
sort of,
very
JJ. Michael Giacchino.
Giacchino.
I don't know. Wrote the theme for Prodigy, but obviously Nami is doing the music for the show, and she's pulling stuff from him.
Yeah.
But so anyway,
heard somewhere that like she studied under him or something like that.
Yeah, that's great.
Which would make sense if that was indeed the case.
Yeah, so I think the opening was very much like that. I love how they're trying to do good deeds to ingratiate themselves with Starfleet, which I think is great.
Right. Yes, to make up for stealing the ship.
Stealing, but not stealing.
I know. I'm well aware of the context, but this is
I know. But they're
reductive, right? They're kids, so they're very reductive about their POV. But I'm like, no, obviously, there's more context.
Yeah, no, I don't feel. I think hopefully upon further inspection, whenever they do meet up with Starfleet, there is this sense that they didn't actually steal this starship, that they actually saved it. But anyway, so I really enjoyed this episode. I was super excited about two things, or three things, actually. One was that Gwyn is getting her memories back slowly.
I'm glad they didn't drag it out. because sometimes they'll like drag shit out
sure
for many episodes.
Yeah,
and that would be annoying. I'm glad she got it back within one episode.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so that was the first thing I really liked. I was happy about that. I was happy that we learned what Murph is. He's a melanoid slime worm,
that's a trivia question that you wouldn't have gotten and I would not have gotten, because I rewatched
you didn't know, you weren't paying attention.
Some sort of worm. Well, I watched it again and I caught it, and then I was like, oh, okay. But if you were to put a gun to my head right now, I would be like, what?
No, yeah. I mean, I did just rewatch the premiere again this afternoon, so.
Oh, okay. Well,
but that was actually the big trivia question that no one had gotten up until this episode, right? No one had guessed what Murph was, and so we now know what Murph is. We knew that Rock is a Brakar, which is a reference to...
It's a book reference.
It's a book reference to Peter David's Excalibur series. With Captain Shelby and Mackenzie Calhoun. And then we learn that Starfleet knows what Dal is, which is really exciting.
Right.
And to have that message.
But of course, that's not yet revealed.
Right. But I love that, there's hope, and, it's just a really cool development for Dal, I think, to know that someone out there knows what he is. So
right.
That is really exciting. So those were my three favorite things. I think the seeing what the weapon that's on the protostar can do is very scary, number one. But number two, I want to go back to something I said on I've probably mentioned on our podcast, but I've definitely mentioned on Discovering Trek. My big guess was that something that's happening with Prodigy would be the result of what happens on Mars in Picard timeline. And so this is
yes, I remember this. I remember you.
Yeah, so I think that this was pretty significant evidence to the fact that whatever this weapon is partially the cause of the destruction of all the Starfleet vessels at Utopia Planitia in Mars. So that was an exciting thing.
Didn't all the vessels just get destroyed because of the androids? I don't even remember all the details.
Yeah, but I think something made them go bonkers, right? So I think it's
like, it wasn't that. I thought that was due to the Romulan espionage. I remember talking about this. Yeah, I don't remember the details.
I don't think that we actually know. This was my speculation all along, though, is what the protostar had on, like that Prodigy would have some link to, especially after we learned about Gwyn's father's like master plan about ruining the Federation. I kind of tied it together, but we'll see if it ever is told again. So I really enjoyed this opening episode. I felt like it was a great start to the second half of season 1. And it was really great to see the characters are growing and developing and becoming a cohesive team.
Right.
So that's what I thought about it. What did you think about this opening episode?
Yeah, no, I realized this episode. I was like, yay, Prodigy is back. And we're both big fans of Prodigy. And we're both really big fans of season 1A, I guess I'll call it. So it was really nice for it to be back. And yeah, there were a lot of great moments in this episode. One of my favorite moments I mentioned to you was when Dal was along the lines of what you're saying. He was kind of nervous about Starfleet, and he had that very intimate relationship with hologram Janeway, and they hugged, and I was like, oh, that's really sweet. She's like a mom figure, and it's like, they trust each other, and that was really nice. I like that. And I think that I just really appreciate that we are seeing these characters grow and change, and it's like consistent growth, and it's not just like reverting back to because sometimes it's like one step forward, one step back, but in this case, it's like growth that sticks, and that's great. I love that. There's like serialized character storytelling, you know. So I am a big fan of what Prodigy's doing with that. I like our short but sweet scenes with Admiral Janeway. The Janeway Chakotay shippers should hopefully be rejoicing because we get it's in the holodeck, but you know, it's obviously like they hug, and they have a moment before Janeway freezes program, and you know, I want to see more of Robert Beltran / Chakotay on the show. And, you know, like obviously Admiral Janeway she's obviously searching for the protostar, but she's motivated by Chakotay. You know, she's the reason why she's doing all this is for Chakotay. And I'm definitely one of those people that I'm like, they should have gotten together. It would have been like very difficult to navigate and potentially inappropriate, but you know, we talked about like, you know, Voyager didn't have an HR department. Janeway touches everyone and puts her hands on everyone. But the scenes that she has with Chakotay and the times in which she confides in him and vice versa, they had something special. So I'm a Janeway Chakotay shipper. So it warmed my heart to see them together once again. So that was great. So yeah, that was great. I do have one thing I do have to say about Prodigy that is kind of messing with me a little bit is space seems really small. So in this first episode, they've reached basically the boundary of the Federation. So it's a relay station. So it's a relay station, but basically they've reached the boundary of the Federation already. And as we know, it's the Protostar engine that allows them to travel really quickly. So, okay. But then the Dauntless is on the search. And then they get to Tars Lamora. And I'm like, wait, this was like, how long did it take the Dauntless to get to Tars Lamora? And it hasn't been that long because the Diviner is adrift, but still alive. But
he's in some sort of, you know, suspended animation.
Right.
So
but it hasn't been like, I don't think it's been like, oh, Voyager's traveled, like the Dauntless has traveled years to get to Tars Lamora, which is in the Delta Quadrant. I just don't quite know where everything is, and everything seems really close together because the passage of time is very unclear to me. And yeah, like the Protostar I get, because again, the Protostar engine, but the Dauntless, as far as we know, just has a regular warp drive. Maybe they have something else. Maybe like Slipstream. I don't know. Maybe, who knows? It just didn't take them that much time to get to Tars Lamora, at least in storytelling time. So meanwhile, Voyager, it's like it's going to take us like decades to get back to the Alpha Quadrant. So it's just like a little bit, it's messing with me a little bit in terms of where everything is and like where we start. So yeah, that's one thing that like kind of like functionally bothered me.
I think that's an adult problem, though. I think that's not, that's not a kid's storytelling motif, or like
true. Yes, I agree. But they also, I think one thing that Prodigy has done well is they're also very respectful of like the lore. And we have an episode from season 1A, like the Kobayashi Maru. So that's like all callbacks, like, so they are still very trying to be respectful of the mythology that Voyager in particular has set up for us. So, they're trying to please both audiences. I don't think it's the biggest problem. It's just like, because it's like when we talked about that Vindicta DS9 episode, not DS9, oh my God, the Vindicta Lower Decks episode. And I was like, yeah, my mind just goes to how is this functionally working in terms of the storytelling? Who cares? No one cares. It doesn't matter. But sometimes I think that way. I'm like, where's the techno manual? Or in this case, where's stellar cartography? I need to like do some fact checking, So that's just me. But long and short of it is I really did enjoy this episode. Thought it was a great return to our beloved cast and setting up that obviously setting up where we leave the episode with Admiral Janeway finding the diviner and being like, he has all the clues, he has the answers, and that's setting up potential future conflict for Janeway and our protagonists. So yeah, I'm glad John Noble's still around. Obviously they're not done with him yet, so he's a great actor.
Yeah, I'm not really super excited about having the diviner back in the mix, but I understand the need for a antagonist in this.
I was hoping that it would be kind of just like Admiral Janeway's the quote unquote antagonist, right? I agree with you. I don't think we need the diviner because I feel he served his purpose. But I do feel there's a lot more that we don't know about the protostar, where Chakotay is, and he's kind of linked to that.
I think he's linked to where Chakotay is.
Where Chakotay is because we know that there's some timey-wimey stuff with the protostar, right? Like there's still unsolved questions about the protostar, and where it went to. Like, there are theories that it went to the future and then went back to the past. Like, there's all these theories. So, like, how it gets stuck in Tarthamore in the first place. Like, there's all these unanswered questions. So, unfortunately, for better or for worse, I think the diviner is where we're going to find some of these answers. So,
fortunately or unfortunately, however you want to look at it. Right. Yeah, I think that's the way it is. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Why don't we move on to the next episode? Let Sleeping Borg Lie. I was like, where's Sleeping Borg Lie? Let Sleeping.
Why don't you go ahead and give us your thoughts?
I liked this episode. I don't think I liked it as much as the first episode, the 11th episode. But I do think that it was a great episode that gives us more into Zero's conflict. I think that Zero is actually a very complex character. And obviously the stuff with Gwyn furthers his complex. He is his complex as a reason. But obviously he has a lot of baggage in the way that he was used by a diviner to harm people. So I feel that this was a great episode to kind of unpack his character a little bit and to give him some catharsis when it comes to the guilt that he's been carrying this whole time. So again, I think that, another thing, again, the same thing that I was saying about Prodigy before is that they have these really clear character through lines that make sense, are consistent. In this case for Zero, that, he needs this freedom from his guilt for who he is. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm using he, but it's they. Like Zero is a they pronoun. So I'm going to switch. I can't help it because Zero sounds kind of like more male than female, and Zero is also played by a male actor, so I just automatically go to the he, him pronouns, but it is they. They're non-binary. So Zero, Zero is I don't feel that we've gotten much screen time with Zero as a character. So this is nice to kind of give them a little bit more space to grow. I thought that the whole thing with the Borg was okay. At first I was confused because I was like, why aren't they just like assimilating them with nanites? But they do explain early in the episode that due to the neurolytic pathogen that I guess we point back to Endgame, which it's making some interesting connections to Voyager, that the Borg nanotechnology has also been disabled. So they might have had to assimilate them more manually than usual. Because I was like, why don't they just using their assimilation tubules? And I thought that the whole thing with them assimilating, quote unquote, Zero was interesting, because obviously I was like, how are they going to assimilate Zero because it's non-corporeal? But I guess they're using their psychic powers as well to do it? Or was it now? It was very like, like kind of like I don't know. It was unclear to me, but having like not having biological components, I was like, how are they gonna do this? So it's kind of interesting how they did it. It was almost like, in like the mind space of the Hive and like Zero and how they were doing it. So it was like a psychic attack or something like that. So I thought that was interesting. But yeah, I mean, like, I didn't mind that the Borg, sometimes it's annoying when they have the insert the Borg now, because I feel sometimes they just do it to insert it. But I didn't mind the way that they used the Borg this time. And I thought that it was interesting, again, that it points to Endgame, but then also points to some of the tidbits that we've gotten in Picard season 2 about the state of the Borg Collective and how the effects of the neural pathogen that future Admiral Janeway released may have had lasting impacts. So I kind of like the fitting in where the mythology is and such. So that's always something that I enjoy. But yeah, no, overall, I thought this up, it was also us finding out about the weapon, the living construct, as the board called it. I thought that was interesting. And yeah, basically they can't get rid of it. So what now, And it sets our protagonists off on a path where they are going to do good and other things. But it's like, okay, but there's this like elf in the room about this weapon. So what's going to happen? So yeah, but overall, yeah, I liked the episode. It wasn't like my favorite, but I do think that it fits the story well and fits the characters well. And yeah, it wasn't bad. What do you think, Mike?
You hit on some points that I wanted to touch on too. I didn't like this. I did not like this as much as Asylum. Mm-hmm. I thought, and I think it was because you're kind of seeing the reversion a little bit of back to being kids again, and ignoring Janeway's advice about the Borg. And I do like their fearlessness. Well, except for Jankum is very fearful of.
Oh my God, Jankum's so annoying sometimes, but
also he is like not wrong. So there's that. There's that piece. So I think I was a little annoyed with their ignoring Janeway's advice to get the heck out of there, because I would get the heck out of there. I mean,
well, the thing is, we know more about Borg,
but even so after
there's this like, institutional knowledge in place.
Sure. She briefed them, and I think that's that should have like made them think twice about it. I think that so there's those sorts of things that really kind of bother me from that perspective, is that just ignoring that. I also think that until Picard, we didn't know anything about the Vinculum or whatever it's called.
No, we got that in Voyager.
Oh, did we? Okay. Well, again, I'm not a Voyager expert, so
yeah, that episode Infinite Regress is where Seven starts to.
This is what I'm talking about. This is why you're gonna whoop my ass and try.
It's like random, but it's random. It's random. It's not like consistent. Like it's like the one where Seven develops multiple personality disorder because the Vinculum basically causes like mental barriers in her mind to break down or something like that.
Yep. See, all of that. Couldn't recall any of that if I tried for months. But anyway, I don't know where I was going with that. So I thought that was an interest. It was too easy to find that, though. I felt like we'd never seen that really too actively before, and so my reference point is when Seven takes Elnor to the Vinculum in the defunct Borg cube that the Romulans are mining.
Wasn't the Queen's chambers?
Oh, I just assume it's all the same thing. I don't know. Whatever.
Oh, okay.
Well, it reminded me of that same sort of inner sanctum where, I felt like they got there too easily was my main thing. Like,
well, they just wandered
we've seen once or twice. that we've never seen before, and suddenly they have access to the hive mind, and know how to and figure out how to act easily and quickly. So it's just it's just really weird. So so I didn't really enjoy this episode quite as much based upon, and I think it's just those sorts of things. I also feel like
so like the lack of like common sense, I suppose.
Yeah, which kids don't probably have a lot of common sense necessarily, but also their desire for an answer to get rid of the living construct, or the weapon as it's called by them, before
Borg, name it,
before they meet the Borg, before Zero kind of gives them that name.
Do you think that the whole thing where I'll be honest, the whole thing where they're like, oh, the Borg can help us figure this out, it was a little far-fetched?
Yes.
Like the way that the logic of it, where they're like, oh, they can adapt to everything, so they can help us figure out like how to dismantle this weapon. I was like, does that make sense? Like just the logic.
Well, the Borg didn't know what it was, so that's how we learn about it, a little bit more about it. But I don't really understand that whole logic or lack of logic.
It was a little confusing. Yeah.
So and ultimately what we learn is that they can't go to Starfleet because it will destroy Starfleet. So now they're on the run, so to speak, although they don't know that they're being chased by Janeway. Vice Admiral Janeway.
Vice Admiral Janeway.
So they don't know that that's coming, but so this is going to be interesting. Speaking of Admiral Janeway and the Dauntless, I am still flabbergasted at the design of the Dauntless after that ship from Voyager, and like the bridge layout being exactly the same as the
is it exactly the same? I need to look at it again.
Yes. The singular like Defiant style nav and helm, and then the screens
much more the beige color, right? The beige
color, yes, but also the auxiliary stations and everything. So I just thought it was a little too much, and seems a little non-Starfleet standard. But anyway, hey, I love starships, so it's fine. But I just thought that was a little bit off.
Yeah.
But So I didn't really love this episode. So I'm hoping that, but we, ultimately we do learn.
I don't think it was a bad episode.
No, I don't think it was a bad episode at all. I think this one was much more geared towards kids and their first experience with Borg, like a major Star Trek enemy.
Right.
And so I didn't even put together all this stuff. So thank you for putting together all that stuff about why their tubules of, why they didn't inject them.
Or why they could just assimilate them the old-fashioned way.
So I just kind of assumed that they wouldn't do that on a kids' television show and show that. So that's why I assumed that they were doing it old school, was because of that.
Just saying.
So I'm glad that you were able to maybe...
No, it bothered me, but then I kind of I realized later.
You logicked it out. I figured we can't really show that to kids, so better not. But anyway... Also, it doesn't really help advance the storyline because Zero's going to save the day, or does save the day. You don't know that for sure.
Sure. Yeah, they can't actually get assimilated. Yeah. That would be a problem.
They can't. So anyway, but now this Borg cube knows that the living construct is on board the protostar, and that is not a great thing. I don't think so.
Yeah, but I don't feel they're going to bring it back. From a storytelling perspective, I don't think.
Maybe not. We'll see.
I don't doubt it, but who knows?
And how Zero shuts everyone down, he frees himself in Vinculum. Is it the Vinculum? What is it called?
It's Vinculum. Or is it Vinculum? Or the Vinculum?
But he frees himself by realizing he is already part of a collective and doesn't want to be part of this.
Vinculum.
So, I think that that's a little, how he disabled all the Borg suddenly by freeing himself and then sending out this wave from his body, which is not explained at all.
He says that he basically put them back into like a dormant state.
Yeah. A temporary, though. He said temporary. So it wasn't, or they said it was temporary. They didn't say it was the same.
Sorry, I'm keep on messing up Cyril's pronouns. That's not
but they didn't actually say that it was the same as before. So it's this temporary thing. It's sort of like he put him sent them the sleep command from, Best of Both Worlds.
Right. Yeah.
But it's only temporary. But anyway, so
right.
There are a lot of questions about this episode. But again, it's a kids show, so you got to remember that not everything logics out the way that adults want it to. So yeah. But I'm glad to know what the weapon is. I'm sad to see that they can't get rid of it quite so easy. Not that I'm surprised, but
it's gonna be at least a season long problem.
I mean, it sounds like a problem that I can't even imagine Starfleet being able to solve, because it's sort of this weird.
It's Borg can't get rid of it, kind of like
so. I just don't know.
I'm sure they'll come up with something.
I'm sure they will. And they're good writers, so on this staff, so for this show, so I'm sure that they'll figure a way out of this.
They'll figure it out. Yeah,
ultimately. So that's my thoughts on Let Sleeping Borg Lie.
Let Sleeping Borg Lie. Yes, correct. That
Borg.
is the title.
I use the signature. Yeah. So
yes.
Oh, and Murph is sick. No. So.
Oh yes, because he's probably gonna start his metamorphosis soon.
Yes. So, but they referenced it in in Asylum, and then they referenced it again here more so because he stayed behind and actually was kind of curled up in his bed at this point. Yeah, poor Murph. So I'm interested to see what a melanoid slime worm is going to metamorphosize into. Interesting. So there we go.
That's it for these two episodes.
Yeah.
Mike, do you have time for some off topic?
Sure. Let's
5 minutes.
Let's do a quick off topic, because there's not a lot. There's not a lot of off. Lord of the Rings is over. She-Hulk's over.
The Crown is back today.
Oh,
hello.
Dennis has already watched half of this season or more.
Really? Oh my God. Yeah. I can't wait, bitch. I'm so excited.
It came out last week, I think. Last Friday or something.
No. It came out yesterday or today.
It definitely came out yesterday, because Dennis, if it came out yesterday, Dennis has been watching it. So, and I've caught a bunch of it. So, yes, there's The Crown, but
I love The Crown.
More up our alley.
The Crown. What?
More up our alley is Andor.
Oh my God, Mike, Andor is so good. Well, I've been ranting about how good it is. Can you talk about what you're thinking about Andor right now?
I sort of have a mixed feeling about it, and I'm not mixed in a bad way. Just relax and let me say my piece about this. We've actually never really, you and I really haven't talked about this. All I've done is listened to a couple of other podcasts about it. This is I'm not missing any of the Jedi stuff or anything like that. That's not my problem with it. I think it's just the way that they're breaking up these episodes. It's very deliberate. Everything is very deliberate in this show. There's nothing wasted here. There's no words wasted. There's no anything wasted at all.
Very purposeful.
Yes.
In the way that
every scene, every character has a has an arc and a purpose, and it's just very interesting. But it is very slow going, and these it's just it's a slow burn, and I mean, I grew up in 70s and 80s TV, so this is not a problem for me. Like old classic Doctor Who is very slow and like deliberate, like maybe even messily so, but so that doesn't bother me. I think it's just like you can tell that this is a show, and I'm enjoying this, by the way. Don't get me wrong. I am enjoying this. I do enjoy watching it. I am sort of waiting for something to happen a lot. And also there's just this palpable level of tension, which is it's bordering on that line for me where it's almost anxiety producing to some extent, and it affects my enjoyment just slightly because I literally
interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind it as much. I mean, but it's just the way that the episodes are broken up. Like, you sort of saw a first arc in like the first 3 episodes, and then you saw a second arc in the second 3 episodes. But then these last 4 episodes aren't like they're obviously part of the bigger arc, but there's no like closure. Like we're up to episode 10.
10. Mm-hmm.
We're up to episode 10, and so 7, 8, 9, and 10 have not really done anything. Like, I mean, you see the balls moving, you see the gears turning.
That's interesting.
There's no trilogy wrap up because he's still locked up at the end of episode 9. And Mon Mothma.
Just call her Mon. Everyone calls her Mon.
Mon is still in this jumble with finances, and then Luthien is I want more of Luthien. I really do.
Is it Luthien or Luthien?
Maybe Luthien. I don't know. I thought there was an I in there, but maybe not.
Maybe. Sorry.
So it's just
Luthien.
It's Luthien. Okay. There's just, and his relationship with the woman who's in his shop. I don't even know what or who she is. She's his wife, or
I think she's a fellow rebellion colleague. Rebellion colleague.
So there's just there's just a lot. There's a lot of subtext, and like it's just. Yeah, for me, it's a little anxiety producing, which I know honestly,
you don't like because that's why you didn't like Severance. It was too tense for you.
Yeah. So this is Star Wars, so I'll stick with it. But I also need like some sort of like method to the episodes.
Wow.
I need like some through story per episode that makes sense. It's literally like it's literally like they took like, let's just say these last 6 episodes, so 7 through 12, which will complete the first season. They took these, they made one show, Andor, for those 6 episodes, and then they just started to like, we'll cut it here, we'll cut it here, we'll cut it here. Like, there's just no, logic for me to that. I mean, we do get some resolution at the end of 10 on some things, and I'm trying to keep this somewhat spoiler free, because not everybody is.
I'm assuming that people have watched like episode 10 already.
Well, I mean,
if you have not watched episode 10, just skip the rest of this podcast.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, I mean, 10 is... But anyway, those are some of my thoughts. I haven't really, thought it out, and I want to see the last 2 episodes. We're still 2 weeks away from the finale.
2 more episodes, right?
So I think it might be more enjoyable to watch it in a binge. Maybe,
I found it interesting. A different response. Like I when Andor first premiered, well, first of all, I was very excited for Andor for, between the two of us before it premiered. And then when we first started watching it, I thought it was tough, like to watch the first two episodes because they were very, very deliberate and very slow in terms of the build up. But I feel like after Aldhani, the whole Aldhani arc, like built up, and
that whole Aldhani arc itself, 4 through 6, was really good.
It was really good
when you watch it together. When you put it all together,
it was really good. And I don't disagree with you about the arcs that are happening, but I feel that I feel that the main thing that we're seeing arcs is with Andor's story. So we had Aldhani, and then you had like a kind of like connecting episode, and then you have prison. But everything else going around him is pretty contiguous in my mind. Like you have like everything else is ongoing. Like with Luthen, with Mon Mothma, with the. And even like the leftovers from Aldhani, whether it's Val or Cinta, they're kind of still there, like I don't feel they have like these like spliced arcs as we are seeing with Andor. But yeah, I think the overall I think it's very fast actually, because the whole prison arc is 3 episodes, but I think even the Aldhani arc was 3 episodes, but just the amount of character development they can fit into 3 episodes when it comes to these like secondary and tertiary characters, like literally the whole Aldhani heist crew, I was like really invested in all of them, and I was like, wait, it's only been 2-3 episodes. And it hit when they, when some of them were killed off. And I was just like, that's, it's actually, if you think about it, like that's really fast in terms of it's the amount of time we're spending on each arc and how little time we're spending with each of these like characters. New characters are introduced. It's actually very fast in terms of how quickly they're managing to develop our connection to these characters. But I think that the overall thing for me that's connecting it through, and I think this is in response to your question or your comment about like what is this, what is the purpose of this, where it's going. It's really about the development of, the quote unquote hero's journey of Andor, right? Like because like it's like his mind is obviously not changed after Aldhani. Aldhani, he was like, I'm out of here. He didn't want to join the rebellion. He had no interest. He just wanted to get his money and leave. And I think that's very true to a human, like the way a human develops. It's like you need multiple lessons to kind of make you change. And it's like, okay, like I think we're going to get another arc where basically he's going to just continue to see how evil the Empire is. Like the whole point of the prison is like he saw the depravity of the Empire, right? These people that he made connections to, they're stuck here. They're trapped forever until they die. And he's like, this is messed up. And, he gathers a motivation to be a leader and to get them out. But I think ultimately it's kind of like feeding that story. It's like, he's not going to change overnight. It's going to take him a long time, to him like years to get to where he is in Rogue One. And he just needs to continuously see how terrible the Empire is and why he needs to step up. So I think it's more that than anything. I think we're getting these like life lessons that Andor needs to experience for him to become who he becomes. And the thing about Andor is like the character, not to show, but the thing about him is that like, he's very like, for many instances, is very passive. Like he's just like, things are just happening to him versus him. Like obviously he does take control at end of some of these arcs. But it's pretty passive character overall. Like, like he escapes to like Miami. He's like just trying to like live his life and enjoy the credits that he got from the heist. He doesn't want to be involved in the political scheming of Luthen. But I think we need to get to, basically we're just experiencing things with him. It's like, why did he get to a point where he goes from being a pacifist or not even pacifist, is like, no, he doesn't want anything to do with it, to a leader in the rebellion, right? So I think it's more like, if anything, it's like the quote unquote hero's journey of Andor, right? That's what we're getting.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I guess I don't see him as a hero. I didn't necessarily really like him in Rogue One, although I loved Rogue One as a movie. Loved it. I just didn't like necessarily enjoy him as much. And then
He's obviously like a leader. He has leadership qualities. Like, people flock around him somehow. Like, people listen to him.
Somewhat. Yeah, I mean, somewhat, but not. I wouldn't say he's like. I still see him as more of an independent person. He wants to be independent. And also he's not that smart. He's not that bright. He really isn't. So the whole vacation thing that he did, and he goes out and suddenly he gets into it, like, that's just stupid. Like,
but he is smart, because remember in the Aldani heist, he instantly picks up like, oh, like he has this habit, like he does this, like, like you got that scene where who was left-handed, who was right-handed. So he sees certain things, he sees patterns, and he's able to formulate plans, and he's really fast. Like, even with the prison, like,
he can pick out systems and things like that. Yes, absolutely. But he's definitely, I wouldn't definitely call him a hero. I mean, he's killed multiple people for not very good reasons. And he even the rebellion, quote unquote, sees him as a loose end that needs to be closed.
Right, but then obviously he becomes a critical member of the rebellion. Like, something changes.
I mean, so, yes, I understand. I get that, but it's just, I think that the more interesting parts of this show are not actually Andor. So
no, I agree with you. It's like all the other characters, like
all the other characters. This is really, I don't even know why we call this Andor, this series Andor, other than I guess honestly, he has a pivotal role in some of this, but the characters around him, this really isn't an ensemble show.
Oh my God. But that's what makes it so good. The ensemble is so strong. Like,
I mean,
oh my God.
Super interested in what
Luthen is fucking amazing. Like, is a character. And I think the one thing that is doing really well, that I think was particularly pronounced in episode 10, is, and Luthen literally has a soliloquy about it, like what needs to be sacrificed in order for there to be freedom, right? Like, what the actual mental and physical toll that I think we don't always dig into. Like, it's dug into very superficially, but I think one of the things that Andor is doing really well, like, we see it across the board, like Luthen, Mon, like, they're all like learning, or they're already there in terms of how much they need to sacrifice for this rebellion. I think they're making it's a very visceral way to look at it, like in terms of how much they need to give up.
Well, and also their enemy, the Empire, is actually catching on, and the ISB is actually, countering in a way. Is a formidable, more formidable than the Empire itself, I would say. Like,
yeah, well, so like it's actually very fleshed out. Like, they have they're very smart. Like, they're actually shown to be like smart, intelligent people that they're making plans. They're not all dumb. Like, sometimes I feel it's just like, if you're not like Darth Vader or the Emperor, everyone else is like an idiot. But they're doing a really good job of actually fleshing out the other side of it. Yeah. Which, sometimes you don't know who to cheer for, because you're like, oh yeah, like they're the underdog. Like, Cinta is like the underdog or whatever. But yeah, you're actually cheering for them, even though they are the quote unquote bad guy. But I think that's what Andor is adding so many layers of gray to both the people involved in the Empire as well as the rebellion, right? Because I don't know if you can say Luthen is a good person, right? Like, that's debatable. I think that's the whole point. Like, is Luthen a good person? Like, sure, he has, do the ends justify the means? Like, that's the whole point of this character, right? But that's, again, one thing that Andor's doing really well in terms of layering on the complexity of each of these characters, and it's like, who's good, who's bad, who knows, like I think it's very interesting.
Yeah, no, it is very interesting. And yeah, I'm enjoying it. I'm definitely here for it, but
and I love it's so intense. I actually really like that. I'm like, I'm here for how intense it is. How everyone is like stressed out. Like literally, you can tell everyone's stressed out on the show. Because it's like, they're all like on the verge of getting like murdered or caught or something. Like something's just around the corner, and I love that. It's just like, yeah, there is that. I know what you're saying, but for me, I kind of compartmentalize.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to see how this kind of wraps up this season. The next 2 episodes and where we're left, and then I think I can better judge it on the whole. The whole piece.
But you're right. Maybe it's like maybe if you binge it, it's like it feels very different.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think that we sort of saw that with Obi-Wan Kenobi as well. Although I think that had more very well defined episode.
Right. It's also 6 episodes versus like 24.
Yeah. So
like they're taking their time for sure.
They are, absolutely. And let me just say this: visually, this show is amazing.
Visually,
they
amazing.
They did, and the writing is. I mean, Beau Willimon is writing these latest episodes, but
so good.
The creator, Toby Haynes, I want to say, is his name. And I'm sorry, I don't know his name off the top of my head. Tony Gilroy, thank you. Don't know where I came up with that name, but anyway.
Toby Haynes. Oh my God.
But anyway, sorry. These behind the scenes, I see them and I don't memorize them. But he's done an amazing job at creating a world and he's directed a number of the episodes as well. So
it's so well fleshed out. Like
it is. It's just I think
the cinematography, everything, production values, it looks amazing.
Yes, absolutely. Across
music,
the board,
amazing. Everything's so good.
The funny thing, the only thing that bothers me about this show, and it's not about this show, I think it's about the Star Wars universe in general, is that it's literally just run by push buttons. Like it's an alien. To me, it's an alien way of controlling the ships. They do this in the Bad Batch. Like they're so great in the sense of they stick to like the red and yellow or the red and the white buttons that control all these things, and people know what buttons to push with very little almost basic style graphics on their computer screens and whatnot. It's just that for me is the most frustrating part of this, because you want to know what they're
specific.
It is, because you want to know, like, well, what buttons are they pushing? Like, what does it do? Like, why isn't it?
But I think Star Wars has not been, I'm sure there's a technical manual, but they're not like, it's not like Star Trek where it's not, they don't care about like the systems of the sci-fi.
Yeah, no, I know.
Right.
Yeah, no. But it's just one of those things that sticks out to me when I see people pushing buttons. Like, how the hell do you know to push that button? Like they're not labeled.
Well, that happens in Star Trek sometimes too. That happens in Star Trek sometimes. They're pushing like the same button over and over to look like they're doing something. But it's like, are you doing anything?
It's not. Yeah, it's definitely not graphics heavy on the operating systems of the Star Wars universe.
Oh, that's very on purpose. It's very analog, right?
Anyway, so I'm anxious to see how this wraps up. This season 1 wraps up, and to see how I feel by the end of it. But
I love the actress that plays Mon Mothma. She's amazing. Like Genevieve.
Yeah,
Riley.
I mean,
she's really good.
Yeah, she is. She is excellent.
She has great poise. I'm like, I wish I had so much poise. I don't have poise.
Well, and what is the ISB woman's name who? Miro or whatever.
Yes, Dedra Miro. Thank you.
Dedra Miro is amazing.
She's great.
she's great.
She's great.
Too.
She's great. She's great. But she's like what I'm talking about. She's like a very like you're rooting for her because she's like this underdog, and then she's like evil. Like she tortures six.
She is
she's
evil.
like ruthless. Yes,
she is ruthless.
But it's funny because you also like you want her because she's like she sees there's a connection, but no one's listening to her. So you're like, come on, people, she's right. There is a rebellion going on, and you are rooting for her, and then she actually gets to the point where she's listened to. And you're like, oh damn, like she's the bad guy, So I love that though. I love that juxtaposition of like, who are you rooting for? Who's the guy? Who's the bad guy?
Yeah, I mean, I have to say that I'm enjoying having a bad guy, a bad person, a bad baddie who is worthy of being
she's smart
antagonist.
She's very smart. Yeah, very intelligent. I love her.
Unlike the kind of leader, the ISB and the Empire in Rebels was very in Star Wars Rebels.
Okay,
where they were very not smart and arrogant, and she has the skills to back up, which she doesn't come off as arrogant at all, and she's just very strong-willed and has put this together. She's strategic, so it's amazing. You are sort of rooting for the baddies in this one sense,
right?
But she is kind of surrounded by some idiots. I
don't know. It's like, but that's the thing. I don't know if they're idiots or they're just stuck in bureaucity, right?
Yeah,
that's the other thing
no, I think that's the other thing. Yeah,
that's the other thing that's so interesting about. And I know that Tony Gilroy was doing this on purpose, making the Empire relatable to corporate America. It's like people are operating in their silos and lanes, and there's paperwork and like meetings and like there's like meeting after meeting. It's like like, but that happens a lot. Like people just like think about their lanes, think about what they only care about what they're responsible for and what they're tasked with, and that's why.
Yes,
Jar Jar Miro succeeds because she's like, okay, the rebellion does not operate in the silos that we created, right? It's so true. Like that was a great line. Like we're functioning bureaucratically, but the rebellion is not thinking the way we are.
Right?
Them.
That was a huge revelation, I thought. So,
but there's like a lot of that, like all those like really good nuggets that I'm like, oh my god, like that's so smart. Like just like in the writing, like how they're kind of evolving these characters. Anyway, I can go on and on. We can probably have another podcast about just Endor, but it's late and we're done.
It is late, and so we're gonna wrap up our off-topic discussion for now. But
maybe
but before we head out,
bonus about Endor. Anyway, so also have a bonus about the Expanse, but that never happened. Fantastic show, layered show.
Yep. Definitely.
Mike, why don't you talk about our sponsor?
Absolutely. So Fansets is the exclusive sponsor of the Trek Geeks podcast network and Deep Space Pride. And they've just redesigned their website, which I wanted to give them kudos for that. And also share, they've got some new releases related to Doug Jones, which he's a friend of the show. So go on over to fansets.com, check out all the pins that they have. So they have these 3 new Doug Jones and Captain Saru pins that are amazing. They now have the La Serena emblem pin, as well as they've added the 2 more ships to the Master Ships collection, which includes Voyager and the Defiant, plus a whole lot more. Their deltas are amazing. I've gotten several of them. And head on over to fansets.com. Put a bunch of pins in your cart. If you put the code TrekGeeks, all one word, all caps, in at checkout, you're going to get 10% off your order. And if your order is over $30, you're going to get free shipping in the US. And we want to thank our friends at Fansets for being the exclusive sponsor of Deep Space Pride and the Trek Geeks podcast network.
Thanks, Fansets. All right. Well, that does it for this episode. We would love to hear from you and would love to get your thoughts on Prodigy season 1B or Andor or The Crown. I'll take it. I'll take all of it. So if you do want to reach out to us and talk about any of these topics, you can find us. I was like, you can find us on Twitter and Instagram, Twitter and Instagram at DSpacePride, or you can email us at dspacepride@gmail.com.
There we go.
There we are. Cool.
By the way, The Crown, what I've watched of The Crown is pretty good. So
wait, so have you watched the first 4 seasons?
I have
here and there.
Often here and there. Yes.
It is one of those shows. I'd say The Crown is one of those shows where it is more episodic. So if you like get the gist and know it's, you're like, I know Princess Diana is not gonna make it. Like I know Princess Diana and Prince Charles they have problems. Like, you can literally go in and like, because each episode is a contained story, so you can literally enjoy it like that. But
which I have done and have been. My only problem
you're
with
not
this,
lost. You probably get it.
My only problem with this new season is the woman who plays the queen I just can't stand her because from Harry Potter.
Yes, Professor Umbridge.
Yes, I just cannot stand her. So every time I see the queen now in this new season,
she does kind of look like her though. She does actually look like may God rest her soul, Queen Elizabeth. Like she does kind of play like in terms of even how she carries herself as a character.
Well, even Jonathan Pryce looks a lot like Prince Philip. So
that's true. That's true.
In some ways. So I think there's some spot on, like obviously some really good makeup work, but also there's some spot on comparisons to the real life people who they're portraying. Yeah,
it's tough though. It's like similar to our issue with House of Dragon, because they switched a lot of the characters and it takes a minute to like reorient yourself, but then you kind of like after a few episodes like, you kind of fall back into the groove and it's fine.
Actually, we never really talked on air about House of the Dragon I
thought it ended great. It was
my finale or my final thoughts on Game of Thrones rewatch.
Did you end up like liking it at the end?
I ended up liking it up until the point where Jon kills Daenerys. I like that.
Oh, sorry, Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones. Yes, Game of Thrones up to that point.
Sorry,
I did not. No. But House of Dragon, wasn't pleased with the ending of House of Dragon.
Why?
Luke.
Is it Luke?
Yeah, because of Luke.
But it's good, right? So
yeah, there's good parts to it. Sure, we'll hash this out in another episode when we can talk more about it. But
it had to happen because that's a catalyst for.
I understand. Yes,
everything that happens afterwards.
Sure, I understand.
But no, it was tragic, and I was so angry at.
Yes, what's his name?
Aemond. Sorry, I took it. Aemond. Sorry, it took a second.
You're so good with the names.
Well, the hard part about House of Dragon is also like multiple people have the same name. So and they all they sound the same. Like Aemond, Aegon, and then there are 2 Aegons. And then there's Rhaenyra. I'm like, why does it need to be this way? Why does life need to be this?
Why indeed? I agree. But anyway, we'll do some more off topic when we have more time and are not. Yes, pressed for time.
I still need to pack. I have a 9 a.m. flight. I haven't packed yet.
You're not going to sleep at all. You're going to
sleep a little bit. I mean, that'll be fine. I don't need that much sleep usually.
Well, that's good. Meanwhile, I do need sleep. So
maybe I'll watch an episode of The Crown. Tempted.
Download it on your phone so you can watch it on the flight.
I did do that already. Yes, I'm going to watch it on the plane. It's going to happen.
Good.
But it's also like, oh my God, it's one of those shows where you want to see on a TV because it's so cinematic. It's like visually arresting, So,
yes. And I feel like I'm arrested right now because you are not letting us go.
I can keep on talking.
No, I know you can. Yes.
I guess here we are.
Here we go. Here we are. Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks, Mike. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, listeners. Yeah. yeah, and that's episode 101.
There we go. 101.
There we go.
Onwards to 200 and beyond. Thanks everyone for listening. We'll catch you back here next week. Or no, sorry, in 2 weeks.
2 weeks. 2 weeks.
2 weeks. All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Deep Space Pride is a production of Coconut Media Works. Executive producers Bill Smith and Dan Davidson. For more great Star Trek discussion, discover the other shows of the Trek Geeks Podcast Network at trekgeeks.com or find us in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app.